Dillon Gabriel entered the Cleveland narrative as the composed, low-drama alternative to Shatter Sanders, a quarterback hailed for poise over flash. Yet it's Gabriel, not Sanders, who finds himself at the center of a viral media storm. The now infamous leaked clip, capturing his visible frustration, has flipped the script. Instead of showcasing leadership under pressure, the moment spiraled into a meme-fueled takedown. This wasn't about bad behavior, it was about bad timing in a city where narratives are built fast and torn down faster. Gabriel's unraveling wasn't just personal, it was a symptom of something much larger unraveling around him.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
The real story isn't about two quarterbacks. It's about how Cleveland manufactures chaos, fueled by a local media machine that picks its villains before the season even begins. The same outlets that slammed Sanders for emotion are now weaponizing Gabriel's every gesture. The leaked clip isn't a scandal, it's a mirror reflecting the city's deeper dysfunction. This cycle of hype, collapse, and scapegoating doesn't just destroy reputations, it guarantees the franchise remains stuck in place. Until Cleveland addresses the broken system behind the spotlight, no quarterback, no matter how composed, stands a chance. Dillon Gabriel didn't even make it to mid-season before the script flipped. One moment, one mic'd-up clip, one sideline flash of frustration, and the entire narrative came crashing down. Not because he screamed, not because he insulted teammates, but because he reacted. He showed something raw. And in Cleveland, that was all it took. That one glimpse behind the curtain confirmed what the media had been holding back on for weeks. Gabriel wasn't the calm, collected savior they needed. He was the latest reminder of how quickly things unravel in this city. This wasn't a quarterback crisis. It was a reality check. A moment that ripped the mask off Cleveland's carefully crafted illusion of stability. And Gabriel? He was just the latest casualty of the machine. Because let's be honest, he never had real protection. Not from the offensive line and definitely not from the local press. What looked like support early on was really projection. A safe face. A non-threatening personality. A quarterback the city could wrap in a blanket of buzzwords: poised, smart, low drama. He was never sold as electric. He was sold as reliable, until he wasn't. And once that illusion cracked, Cleveland's media wasted no time. The same reporters who gushed over his decision-making started dissecting his body language. The radio hosts who praised his poise were now calling him emotionally rattled. It didn't matter that the clip lacked context. It didn't matter that he was dealing with busted protection, inconsistent receivers, and a locker room on edge. The clip went viral and that was it. Public perception took over. And here's the part that hurts. The narrative around Gabriel wasn't built on football. It was built on vibes. He was a product of the city's desperate need to believe in something, anything. And that desperation is why every new quarterback is either the second coming or the next bust. There is no middle ground. No development window. Just elevation and collapse. Meanwhile, Shatter Sanders sat in the background, publicly dismissed, privately grinding. He had been the media's favorite target since the offseason. Everything from his posture to his social presence was turned into a hot take. He was labeled cocky, undisciplined, not ready. All off optics. Not off tape. Not off leadership. Off vibes. And yet, when he showed emotion, when a leaked moment of frustration came out, he didn't get buried. He got reevaluated. Because his attitude was misunderstood. Because his confidence had been mischaracterized. And just like that, the media pivoted. Suddenly, Sanders was the mature one. The overlooked talent. The misunderstood leader. What changed? Not him. The media's agenda did. This isn't unique to Cleveland, but Cleveland's version is louder, faster, and far more toxic. The city has become addicted to narrative building, even if it means cannibalizing its own roster. Every player is either a storyline or a scapegoat. And the quarterback? He's always both. And when the franchise doesn't control the message, the media will. The Browns' front office stayed silent through the leak. They didn't clarify the context. They didn't stand behind Gabriel. They let the story run wild, again. Because this is the playbook. Let the media crown a quarterback. Let the fans build their hopes. Let one viral moment undo it all. Then pivot to the next guy and call it a reset. Except it's not a reset. It's a rerun. This exact formula has played out with every quarterback they've touched. The names change. The uniforms don't. And every new season ends with the same postmortem. Wrong guy, wrong time, maybe next year. But at some point you have to stop blaming the players and look at the system. Gabriel's performance wasn't flawless. But flaws are supposed to be part of the process. Development requires room to grow, space to fail, and support when the pressure hits. Cleveland offers none of that. What it offers is surveillance. Criticism wrapped in fake optimism. And when the mask slips, humiliation. And then there's the meme factory. Once that clip dropped, Gabriel wasn't just a quarterback. He became a symbol of collapse. Every sports account posted it. Every thread had captions like, "He's already lost it," or, "This is your guy, Cleveland." It doesn't matter what the clip really meant. It doesn't matter what led up to it. It was useful. Fed the story. It validated the doubts that had been bubbling just below the surface. It's not just that Cleveland media flips. It's that they prepare to flip. They lay the groundwork early. So when the narrative needs to turn, it feels earned. Organic. But it's not. It's orchestrated. The irony? The same people who buried Sanders in the preseason are now acting like they saw his potential all along. The same pundits who questioned his maturity are quoting him in leadership segments. And they're doing it without any accountability. No correction. No acknowledgement of the double standard. Because here's the thing, Gabriel was protected until it no longer served the storyline. Sanders was attacked until he became useful. It's the same cycle over and over. And it's not about performance. It's about narrative control. That's why this franchise doesn't move forward. Because its culture is reactive, not developmental. It's more invested in managing perception than managing talent. It wants players who fit media molds, not ones who challenge them. And that's where it keeps losing. Not on the scoreboard. In the infrastructure. There's no stable leadership. No unified message. No consistent standard for how players are treated. What there is panic. Fear of criticism. A PR-driven approach to football where players are only valuable if they're media-safe and meme-proof. And Gabriel wasn't. He showed emotion. He cracked for one moment. And that was enough. So now what? Sanders takes over? Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe he gets a Real shot this time, or maybe they're already lining him up for the next pivot. Because if you've been paying attention, the outcome is never about what happens on the field. It's about who gets framed as the face of hope and who gets framed as the reason it fell apart. And when you operate like that, you're not building a team, you're building a soap opera. Gabriel was just the latest lead to get written out mid-season. If you're exhausted watching Cleveland do this to every quarterback who walks through the door like this video, leave a comment. Should Gabriel have been benched, or was this just another player sacrificed to the system? And if you're here for more breakdowns of media manipulation, public perception, and the high-stakes drama hiding behind sports headlines, subscribe now. Because the real scandal isn't the clip, it's the culture. And in Cleveland that never leaks. It just lingers. There's something uniquely cruel about what just happened to Dillon Gabriel. Not because of the volume of the criticism. Not even because of the leaked clip. It's the speed. The speed with which the narrative turned on him. The way an entire city, a fan base, and a media ecosystem pivoted, like they had the segment pre-written. Like they were waiting for him to slip just so they could say, "See? We knew it." And that's the twisted part. They did know it. They set it up that way. Because from the start, Dillon Gabriel wasn't just being evaluated, he was being watched. Monitored. Not for growth. Not for development. But for confirmation bias. People were waiting for a moment that justified their doubt. A single crack in the polished, packaged, coachable quarterback they'd propped up as safe. And once that crack appeared, the walls came down. Fast. It was all downhill from the moment his frustration was caught on tape. Now, let's be clear. What was in that video wasn't career-ending. He didn't blow up at a coach. He didn't throw a tantrum. He didn't punch a locker or go rogue on the field. He looked frustrated. That's it. Frustrated. Tense. The kind of expression you see every Sunday in every game from every quarterback who's ever dealt with a broken play or a dropped route. But in Cleveland, that moment was enough to shift the story. Because the media had been holding back. They knew Gabriel's performances weren't matching the hype. They knew he wasn't elevating the team. But instead of addressing that directly, they insulated him. They blamed the offensive line, the receivers, the weather, the preseason rust. And then, finally, they got their out. That sideline clip gave them the green light to unload what they'd been holding in, and boy did they run with it. And the narrative didn't just shift, it flipped. Overnight. Suddenly, the guy who was described as mentally tough and emotionally mature was now showing signs of strain. Suddenly, the same calm demeanor that was praised all off-season was reframed as aloofness. Now he was too quiet, too internal, not a leader, not inspiring enough, not Cleveland enough. This isn't evaluation. It's character assassination, politely disguised as sports coverage. Meanwhile, let's talk about how different this looks for Shatter Sanders. Sanders started from a place of skepticism. He wasn't granted the benefit of the doubt. He was challenged, questioned, and framed as a risk. And why? Because he had personality, confidence, charisma, the kind of presence that doesn't sit quietly while the city shapes his image for him. The media hated that. They latched onto it early, painting Sanders as a me-first guy, an outsider, someone who needed to be reined in. Every little moment became evidence. A smirk? Arrogant. A social media post? Distracted. A sharp comment in practice? Immature. It wasn't analysis, it was surveillance with an agenda. And yet, the minute Gabriel stumbled, suddenly Sanders got a second look. Now the same people who tried to bury him are lifting him up. Now he's resilient, focused, quietly earning the locker room's trust. But let's be real, he didn't change. The coverage did. That's what's so frustrating about this entire mess. The players aren't dictating their reputations. The media is. Performance barely matters. What matters is timing. Who gets hyped? Who gets burned? And who gets the redemption arc when the story needs a twist? Gabriel didn't get a redemption arc. He got exposed. Not by the league. By the people who were never honest about his performance in the first place. And that's the deeper problem here. The franchise and the media don't work independently. They echo each other. They feed each other. When the team wants to protect someone, the media complies. When the media starts turning, the team distances itself. And the players? They get trapped in between, trying to prove themselves in a game where the rules are constantly changing. And the fans, for all their loyalty, are stuck in the middle, emotionally invested in a cycle that keeps chewing up talent and spitting out scapegoats. Because this isn't the first time Cleveland has done this. It's just the latest. This team has been through quarterbacks like seasons. Each one walks in with hope behind them. Each one gets the press tour, the fluffy features, the early buzz. And each one gets broken down once the shine wears off. Gabriel, Mayfield, Kaiser. We've seen this too many times to pretend it's just bad luck. It's not about whether these players are good enough. It's about whether the environment around them allows them to become good enough. And Cleveland doesn't. The franchise doesn't build. It patches. It doesn't nurture. It reacts. And when the fanbase starts to doubt, when the memes start to circulate, when a leaked clip drops at just the right time, it hits the panic button and starts the entire process over. And they call it a rebuild. It's not. It's a reset. A way to buy another year of belief. Another season of false optimism. Another reason to sell jerseys and season tickets. And the cycle continues. The locker room feels it. The players know it. And so does the next guy in line. Because that's what this system teaches. Don't make mistakes. Don't show emotion. Don't get too high or too low. Stay off social media. Keep your head down. Because the second the story turns, you're out. The leaked clip wasn't just a viral moment. It was a microcosm of Cleveland's entire culture. A young quarterback, under pressure, showing emotion, and being punished for it. Not just by fans. By the same people who sold him as the answer. And that's what's truly humiliating. Not the clip itself, but the silence afterward. The way the organization said nothing. Offered no clarification. No context. No support. Just distance. Just space to let the narrative settle. Like they needed the fall to move forward. It's hard to imagine anyone thriving in that. So now the spotlight shifts. To Sanders. To whoever's next. And the cycle gears up again. And unless something changes, unless someone in that building finally says enough, this will keep happening. Year after year. Quarterback after quarterback. Hope. Collapse. Repeat. Because Cleveland doesn't have a quarterback problem. It has an identity problem. And until the franchise decides what it actually wants, stability, growth, or just content, no one's safe. Not Gabriel. Not Sanders. Not whoever's next. Let's not pretend this ends with Dillon Gabriel. Because if you've been paying attention, you already know. Cleveland eats its quarterbacks alive. And the most frustrating part? Everyone sees it happening and still, the cycle keeps going. Gabriel's humiliation wasn't some freak occurrence. It wasn't bad luck or one bad game or an isolated media overreaction. It was the inevitable result of a system designed to hype, discard, and move on. And the fact that his public unraveling came via a leaked clip just made it easier. Easier for the media to pile on, easier for the fans to disengage, and easier for the front office to pretend he was never their guy to begin with. Because Cleveland never really commits to its quarterbacks. They crown them. Then they crucify them. And all it takes is one moment. Gabriel's moment happened to be a sideline clip. A snippet of frustration, caught by a mic he didn't know was on, amplified by a media market waiting for its next fire to stoke. And just like that, the narrative shifted. A quarterback who had been described as calm and composed was suddenly labeled emotionally unstable, immature. In over his head. Nothing else had changed. His stats were the same. The team's record was the same. His interviews were still measured. But perception? That flipped overnight. Because the story needed to flip. And once it did, the script wrote itself. Gabriel had never been the guy. He wasn't what the team needed. He couldn't handle the pressure. It was time to see what Shatter Sanders could do. This wasn't a coaching decision. This was a media pivot. And Sanders? He didn't suddenly become a better quarterback. He didn't magically mature in 1 week. What changed was his usefulness. With Gabriel's stock plummeting, Sanders became the redemption arc. The "maybe we got this one wrong" headline. The fresh start. The new hope. It's as predictable as it is exhausting. Because let's be real, no quarterback can succeed in this kind of environment. Not long term. Not when the same machine that props you up is waiting to pull the rug the second a more compelling narrative comes along. Not when you're asked to lead a team, win over a locker room, and carry a franchise, all while playing under a spotlight that's constantly looking for cracks. Cleveland doesn't give its quarterbacks time to build. It gives them time to break. And then it moves on. And it would be one thing if this happened once. Twice. But this is a pattern. This is baked into the culture. Just look at the timeline. Start of the season, optimism. The press calls the quarterback refreshing, disciplined, focused. The franchise trots him out as the new face. He does every interview, every promo. The fans get just enough footage to start believing this is the one who'll finally change things. Then come the games. Reality sets in. The team stumbles. The offense struggles. The cracks start to show. And instead of addressing why, instead of analyzing the coaching decisions, the line breakdowns, the overall instability, attention zeroes in on the quarterback. One bad throw. One testy moment. One soundbite that can be clipped out of context. That's all it takes. And once it hits the media loop, it's over. The pivot happens. The coverage gets harsher. The analysts get louder. The fans get restless. The front office goes silent. And the quarterback? Alone. Unprotected. Unable to fix the perception no matter what happens on the field. That's what happened to Dillon Gabriel. He didn't lose a game. He lost control of the narrative. And once that control is gone in Cleveland, there's no getting it back. Because the truth doesn't matter anymore. And this is why quarterbacks don't last here. It's not the talent. It's not the work ethic. It's the relentless pressure to be perfect in an ecosystem designed to expose every flaw. It's the constant swinging between savior and scapegoat. The media loves to talk about leadership. About poise. About intangibles. But what happens when a quarterback actually shows emotion? When he expresses frustration not at his team, but at the situation? He's labeled weak, shaky, not built for this market. And then the same media turns around and calls for players to be more authentic. It's a trap. And Gabriel walked right into it. He tried to play the game the way they wanted. Say the right things. Stay neutral. Don't give them anything to twist. And even that didn't protect him. Because the second he cracked, one time, he was no longer useful to the narrative. So they flipped him. And flipped to Sanders. But let's not pretend Sanders is safe now. Because the same media now praising his leadership will come for him the second he does something they can spin into controversy. The moment he gets too confident. The moment he speaks too bluntly. The moment the team hits a skid. They'll be ready. And the front office? They won't stop it. They never do. This is what defines Cleveland football now. Not wins and losses, but narratives. Perception. Public relations dressed up as strategy. And that's why the team never builds momentum. Because momentum requires consistency. Patience. Vision. Cleveland only has short-term hype and long-term chaos. They don't fix the system. They rotate the scapegoats. And this isn't just media dysfunction. This is organizational failure. When a franchise lets the media dictate the story, when it lets public perception decide its depth chart, it's not leading. It's reacting. It's chasing optics, not outcomes. That's why Gabriel got left out to dry. Not because he wasn't good enough. But because once the city decided he wasn't it, no one stepped in to fight the narrative. Not the coaches. Not the GM. Not the team. And the silence said everything. So now it's Sanders' turn. The pressure's on. The same pressure that collapsed Gabriel is now aimed squarely at him. And maybe he handles it. Maybe he thrives. But unless Cleveland changes how it treats its quarterbacks, unless it finally puts a stop to this vicious narrative loop, it won't matter. Because it's never really about the quarterback. It's about the system around them. Until that changes, this cycle continues. And the fans, loyal, diehard, desperate, keep getting dragged along for the ride. Every year. Every reset. Every promise that this time will be different. But if you've watched long enough, you already know, it won't be. Not until the Browns stop letting the media write their future. Not until they protect their players before they become headline fodder. Not until they admit that the issue isn't who's under center, but who's pulling the strings. Here's the part that no one in Cleveland ever wants to admit. They're not cursed. They're complicit. This isn't some tragic football fairy tale about bad luck and busted knees and missed field goals. It's a franchise, and a city, that's addicted to its own chaos. That treats quarterbacks like content. That sets fire to every promising narrative the second it stops being convenient. Dillon Gabriel was just the next name on the wheel. They loved him when he smiled through camp interviews. When he nodded politely during media day. When he kept things vanilla and played the part. But the second he looked human, frustrated, tired, aware of the pressure, the entire tone shifted. Suddenly he wasn't composed. He was cracking. Suddenly it was time to talk about urgency, leadership, and change. But what changed really? Not his stats. Not his play. Just the narrative. Just the way the media decided to spin it once they got what they needed. A viral clip and an easy exit strategy. And just like that, he became a headline. Not a quarterback. Not a teammate. A headline. And behind the scenes? Silence. No coach stepping in to say, he's still our guy. No teammate calling out the hypocrisy. No front office statement about player development or patience. Because it's easier to let the narrative do the dirty work. Let the fans get riled up. Let the media set the pace. Then call it a football decision. But let's not pretend this was ever about football. If this was about football, Sanders wouldn't have been dismissed from day one. He wouldn't have had to play through unfair criticism and twisted narratives to even get a fair evaluation. He wouldn't have been labeled a distraction before he even took a snap. Gabriel got his storyline first. He got protection. He got space. Sanders had to earn every inch of narrative control. And now that the Gabriel story's collapsed, Sanders is suddenly the redemption arc. The underdog who maybe had it in him all along. But this isn't praise. It's setup. It's the beginning of his cycle. Because once the media builds you up in Cleveland, the next thing they do is wait for the fall. That's the playbook. That's the pattern. That's the poison. Until this franchise stops playing PR quarterback, they're never going to have a real one. Not for long. Not with any chance of stability. Because quarterbacks aren't just facing defensive lines in Cleveland, they're facing headlines. And the headlines always win. So if you're tired of watching this city rewrite the same sad story like this video, drop a comment. Do you think Gabriel ever had a real shot, or was the table already set? And if you want more unfiltered truth about the chaos behind the camera, subscribe. Because in Cleveland, quarterbacks don't get careers. They get narratives. And once those flip, it's already over.